All right, so for this ed puzzle, I want us to go ahead and finish up on our lesson last time. So go ahead and make sure that your notes are complete for this, okay? So, uh, so far we have unions, intersections, and complements. These things might be new, okay? So in probability, you have to pay attention to the wording of and or. There's two different things in math. So the first one is going to be the and. All right, so and is an intersection, meaning you have to multiply each probability. So the intersection rule for probability is the probability of A and B equals the probability of A times the probability of B. An example of this could be like, what's the probability that it rains? And what's the probability of flipping a coin on heads? So rains, you can do a half, and coin on heads can do a half. So if you wanted to do both of those events at the same time, rain and coin, it would just be an example. A half times a half, which is a fourth. Okay. The next one is going to be a union. So a union is when you put two things together. How many people have watched this show or this show? A lot more hands tend to be raised. So for this one, you're going to have to add up all of your options. Okay, so the way this works is, but before we actually go over the formula, it says you have to subtract the intersection to get rid of double counting. That means the intersection is just right here. Why would you count those things twice? You have to make sure to not count it twice. So the probability of event A or event B is the probability of A plus the probability of B minus the probability of A and B. You don't want to count that section right there twice. Okay. All right, finally, it's going to be the complement rule. So the complement rule is just saying that everything should add up to 100%. So if I ask you, how many people in the room have or enjoy watching anime? And 40% of us raise your hand. So how many of us don't enjoy watching anime? If 40% of us do, what percent of us don't? Please answer the question on this ed puzzle. All right, yeah, so if you said 40% do, then 60% don't. That's perfect. All you had to do is do 100 minus 40% equals 60. Another example of this could be the probability of rolling a number higher than 4, which is shown right there. Number higher than 4. That's going to be 2 out of a total of 6. So 2 out of 6, which simplifies to 1/3. So if I want to find out the complement of that event, all I have to do is do 100% minus 1/3, and I'll get 2/3. It's the same idea that we have right here. The above probability right there is the same as rolling a number that is less than 5, or 4 or less. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up the next problem right here. Problem number 1, it says the odds of you getting promoted this year are 1/4. Okay, that's not too bad. The odds of you being audited by the IRS are about 1 in 118. Okay, so what are the odds that you get promoted and you get audited by the IRS? So let's go ahead and recognize this is an and question. So we're going to need to, just like it says here, multiply 1/4 times 1 over 118. Okay, I know 1 times 1 is 1. What is 4 times 118? What is 4 times 118?
It's 472.
All right, so that is our answer as a fraction. Okay, next up is going to be, what is that as a percent? What's 1 divided by 472? 1 divided by 472.
Answer is about 0.00218.
All right, so that's going to be 0.218% if I simply move the decimal over 2 places. Okay, next up, we're going to do problem number 2. So problem number 2 is going to be more of those OR questions. So the OR questions right here is going to be, right, what is the probability that a card chosen from a standard deck? Remember, a standard deck has 52 cards. Okay, a standard deck has 52 cards. So I'm going to make a little note here. 52 cards. But what's the probability that a card chosen from a standard deck will be a jack, either a jack or a heart? So let's go ahead and find this out. The probability of a jack, there's 4 jacks out of 52 cards. So I can go ahead and write that as 4 out of 52. Can you go ahead and try and simplify that? What is 4 out of 52 as a simpler fraction? Okay. Yeah, 4 out of 52 is going to be 1 out of 13. Okay, simplifying is just it's just a good way to make sure your answers are not too complicated. Okay, next up is going to be the probability of a heart. Okay, so there's a lot of hearts in a deck. It's actually going to be 13 out of 52, or 1/4 of our cards are hearts. So basically, there's only 4 types of cards: hearts, spades, jacks, and what's the last one? Yeah, clubs. So hearts, spades, jacks, and clubs, they all have those different, they're all in those different categories. So 1 out of 4 will be hearts. So the probability of jacks, a jack of hearts. Actually, what's the probability of a jack of hearts? How many jack of hearts are there? The jack of hearts looks like this card right here. It's a red card. It's got the letter J of it, and it's got some hearts on it. So how many jack of hearts are there in a standard deck? Yeah, there's only going to be 1 out of 52. Okay, only 1 out of the 52 cards are jacks of hearts. Okay, so to do the OR, either jack or hearts, all we have to do is add these fractions. All right, so we're going to get probability of jack is 1 out of 13. Probability of hearts, 1 out of 4. We simplified it. And the probability of jack of hearts, right there, is 1 out of 52. We have to subtract that. Why do we have to subtract that? Yeah, 1 out of 52 is the intersection. You don't want to count it twice. You want to avoid double counting, just like it shows right here. You want to avoid double counting. Okay, so finally, if we go ahead and add all these things using a calculator, 1 over 13 plus 1 over 4 minus 1 over 52.
It's about 0.3076.
We get a probability of about 0.3076 or 30.76%. Okay, next up is problem number 3. What's the probability that a card selected from a deck will be either an ace or a spade? So how many aces are in a deck? Okay, there are 4 aces out of 52. How many spades are there in a deck? It's the same idea as hearts. There are 1/4 of our cards are spades. And then how many aces and spades do we have? An ace of spades. Do we have such a card? An ace of spades? By the way, what does a spade look like? Let's see. Ace of spades. There we go. It's actually a black card, and it looks something like that. So an ace of spades is a black card. And it looks something like this. Ace of spades. Wow, what a horrible drawing. Let me try that again. Like that. So yeah, do we have an ace of spades? Is there such a card? Yes. So we don't want to count that twice. So there's only one ace of spades in a whole deck. And to be honest, if you look at these fractions, right, it's the same exact thing as in problem number 2. So what I'm going to do is change 4 out of 52, which we have here, to be 1 out of 13. Out of 13. And if I add all those fractions, guess what we're going to get? Yeah, it's the same idea as problem number 2. The correct answer for number 2 should be approximately 0.3076 or approximately 30.76%. Could you write your answers as a fraction? You could, right? But would you? You know, it would take a little bit more work. It's up to you. Okay, problem number 4 says choose a number between 1 and 20 at random. Find the probability that the number is smaller than 5 or a multiple of 3. So, okay, let's see which numbers are smaller than 5. All right, which numbers are smaller than 5? I'll go ahead and put that in blue. The numbers that are smaller than 5 are number 4, number 3, number 2, and number 1. Okay, out of 20. Okay, that's kind of weird, but let's just go ahead and rewrite that. That means that we're going to have 4 numbers out of 20, or that could be simplified to 1/5. Okay, so that's the probability of a number that is smaller than 5. So I'm going to go ahead and write that as 1/5. Okay, next up is, what's the probability that they are multiples of 3? Multiples of 3. Multiples of 3 are going to be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and 21. But 21 isn't a number between 1 and 20. So out of 20, how many options do we have? Count them. Okay, 6 out of 20. Very good. So 6 out of 20 simplifies to 3 over 10. Okay, so we can go ahead and write that down. Plus 3 over 10. Oopsie, not 1 over 10. 3 over 10. Okay, finally, is there any sort of intersection? Is there a number that goes right there that we have to subtract out? Is there such a number that is both a multiple of 3 right there and a number that's smaller than 5? So if you look at your options here, which numbers do you see on both? Okay, let's go ahead and circle the 3 is in both. Any other numbers that are in both lists? Nope, that's the only number. So only 1 out of 20 needs to be subtracted out. That's a number that's on both lists. So finally, let's go ahead and add that up. 1/5 plus 3 over 10 minus 1 over 20.
That would be 0.45.
So that would be exactly 0.45 or 45%. Could you write that as a fraction? Absolutely. But we're going to go ahead and end it there. So just remember to review the vocabulary. Intersection means and. Union means or, and you want to avoid double counting. And the complement just means that they have to add up to 100%. All right, thank you.